And welcome back into a new episode of the Cherry Heat Check, a New Mexico Lobos basketball podcast. I'm Ricky Thompson. Today is Friday, December 5th, one day before the Lobos host the Santa Clara Broncos, the toughest non-conference opponent, the highest non-conference opponent out of any Mountain West school this year. Will be visiting the Pit. I will be breaking that one down, talking a little bit about the two home games the Lobos just won against New Mexico Highlands and against Alabama State, a game I was actually in town for in Albuquerque. Took my daughter to her first Lobo game. I'll talk about that and what I saw from this team in person and what it could mean going forward for the rest of the year, and especially this weekend against the Broncos. Santa Clara with only one loss thus far, a 1-point loss to a good team in St. Louis. And they are down a couple of people, are the Broncos. So I'll talk about what that means. And the game they just won last night by 10 points against Utah Tech. So thank you everyone for listening and following along here. Let's get into it. So we'll take a quick peek at the Mountain West standings thus far. The Utah State Aggies going down this evening to the University of South Florida, where Utah State, who had been shooting the ball pretty well thus far this year with MJ Collins, of course, Mason Falsalev, Drake Allen, among others, they could not throw the ball in the ocean against South Florida. They went down 20 points by halftime, crawled back into it. I think it may have been around 12 points. They suffer their first loss of the season and probably one of their better non-conference opportunities for the Aggies. They fall to 7-1. They are still 4-0 at home thus far. Colorado State sits below them overall, sitting at 6-2. They had a bad loss to the University of Denver about 2 weeks ago, which I think Denver was sitting around 300 in Ken Palm at the time, so that is a bad loss for Colorado State. Lobos coming in at 6-2 as well, with 3 wins in a row after beating Mississippi State and then the 2 wins at home. Surprisingly to many, Wyoming Cowboys coming in at 6-2. They coming off a loss to Texas Tech and JT Toppin, where they actually had a single-digit game going down the stretch and played Texas Tech toe-to-toe for most of that game. Very impressed by Sundance Wicks and the Cowboys thus far. Fresno State, surprisingly 6-3. Vance Wahlberg, leader Jake Highbreder, and Zayon Collins leading the way thus far for the Bulldogs. And the Nevada Wolfpack, a team that the Santa Clara Broncos actually defeated by, I think, 12 to 13 points about a month ago. Nevada just defeating UC San Diego, giving UC San Diego their first loss. Of course, Eric Olin's old team losing a couple of days ago in Reno to Steve Alford and the Wolfpack, where the Wolfpack's freshmen stepped up big. Boise State sits at 5-3 with Grand Canyon, who won a game earlier this week. And probably the biggest surprise thus far in the conference, San Diego State, sitting at 4-3 right now, of course, with the big loss to Troy a couple weeks ago, which surprised many, and their chemistry just has not looked correct thus far, playing a lot of players are averaging, I believe, over 40 points off the bench, but really struggled last and really had to go down the wire. A lot of big shots by Reese Dixon Waters to lead them down the way, and they won that one, now sitting at 4-3. And then San Jose State at 3-5. Josh Pastner's UNLV running Rebels, who are just riddled by injury, are sitting at 3-5 as well. And then the Air Force Falcons at 3-7. So now I'm going to get into a quick rundown of the Lobos' 2 previous games, the first being versus the Alabama State Hornets, who came into that game at 3-4. This is an Alabama State Hornet team who lost to Air Force just the week before, Air Force being one of the worst teams in the entire country. This is a game I was at, the first time I've been in the pit for a game in over 10 years since moving out here to the Bay Area. I have seen the Lobos at St. Mary's here 2 years ago, and then I was at the game last year at San Jose State. So I have seen the Lobos the previous couple years here, but I've not been in the pit in some time. It was a treat. My daughter, 5 years old, got to scream and yell as loud as she wanted. Got to learn the ref you suck chant because there was a ref that was absolutely terrible in that game, and the Lobos came out and could not make a shot early. Ashton Anderson of Alabama State was on fire, finished with 6 of 12 from three-pointer, 9 of 20 from the field overall, and 30 points. And in the first half, he was cooking every Lobo that got a turn from deep. His jumper was sweet, and the Lobos had nothing going early. And even 5 minutes into the second half, it was still dragging, and the crowd really got into it, and it was really fun to be a part of the energy. And it was like the crowd was at that point, enough is enough. And the very first chance in the second half that they really had to get into it, it got loud. And I believe the crowd was maybe around 10,000 reported for that game. I would say it was less than that, but it got very loud, and it did distract Alabama State that final 15 minutes of the game, whether it be free throws, turnovers that occurred, the energy that the Lobos fed off of. And it was fun to be a part of from a fan perspective out there, and being part of the yelling and the screaming and having my daughter be part of that. So even though it was a very ugly game for the Lobos, Jake Hall caught fire in the second half, finishing 7 of 12 from three-point land, 24 points for him. And all of his shots were from three-point land, all 12. Antonio Chol finishing with 12 points. Slow night for Tomislav Boljan offensively, 5 points, 7 rebounds for him. And there were a couple of times where he was open in the post, and for some reason they did not like to give the big men the ball on the block, whether it be JT Rock or Boljan. I've seen it multiple times on television. I saw it multiple times in person at this game where Boljan or Rock had a smaller man on their back, and they just do not want to give him the ball there. So I don't know why these post guys even post up, because they're never going to get the ball there for some reason. So only 5 attempts for Boljan. Of course, he went down at the end of this game with a non-contact ankle injury with only a couple seconds left. And it looked bad from where we were at. He didn't get up quickly, needed assistance off the court, and immediately sat down. Of course, he did warm up in the next game versus Highlands, and everyone's expecting him to be ready for Santa Clara this weekend. The other freshman that's been getting a lot of time, Uriah Tenet, came off the bench but played 29 minutes in this game, 11 points for him, 4 rebounds for the little guy. And I guess he ultimately fouled out with 5 fouls. Dayton Albury, 18 points, 12 of them at the line in 14 attempts there, finishing with 5 assists for Albury. Had some big plays down the stretch as well. Chris Howe, only 4 points on 2 field goal attempts, all his points at the line in this one, but 5 assists for Mr. Howe. And also off the bench, Kevin Patton played very well in this one, and it was fun to see his energy in person. Just loving the minutes he's getting. His plus minus has been very good, especially in that second game versus Highland. But I would love to see Patton's minutes continue to increase as you see him get more and more comfortable on the court. And with the Lobos not really having any shot blockers down low, with Rock out most of the game, Rock only playing about 10 minutes a game at this point, I think Kevin Patton is someone that can be a shot blocking presence other than Boljan. And that's something the Lobos could need, other than just being a great all-around defender. Patton brings a lot to other aspects of the game out there. So looking forward to his continued development. would not mind to see him eat into some of Chris Howell or Luke Hopp's minutes. I know he's really the backup for Chol right now, primarily is Patton, but I would love to see him even on the court with Chol and see what that looks like at some point in time here. But as I mentioned, we were at this game, had great seats, 5-year-old daughter's first game there, and all around it was a great experience after not being there in so long. Got in easily, no lines really at anything other than the uh, shaved ice, which I had to battle someone to pour my serps on, but that's fair game when you're out there trying to get your shaved ice at halftime back to your seat. Anyway, the fans at the game were loud. Lobos have had over 11,000 per game so far at the pit this year, only second to San Diego State in overall fan average. San Diego State coming in with over 11,500, but New Mexico looking good. That is a higher average than they were averaging at this time last year under Coach Pitino, and it is 29th nationally, as reported by Jeff Grammer. And in the second home game the Lobos had over the past week versus New Mexico Highlands, a Division II school, Lobos really were just able to have their way even without Tomislav Boljan playing in this one. He did go through warmups, as I mentioned earlier, decided ultimately to hold him out, which is probably a good decision with the bigger game coming up this week against Santa Clara. Kevin Patton Jr., who I want to highlight again in this game, I believe had a plus minus of over 40 points. He played 20 minutes total, finished with 8.6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals, and 3 blocks as well. Antonio Chol, 12 points in this one. Uriah Tenet with 12 as well. And the story offensively has been Jay Collin most of these games, in this one as well. 21 points for the freshman, 5 of 8 from downtown, 4 of 4 at the line for Mr. Hall, adding 4 rebounds. Dayton Albury playing 22 minutes, only 6 points in this one, but picked up 6 assists. JT Rock got his share of minutes of this one with Boyan out, 17 minutes in all. Had 10 points, believe that has to be his career high. 9 rebounds on top of that for JT Rock, so great showing. But I believe that everyone's highlight was Timeo Pons, the freshman. Say that 5 times fast. 11 points for Mr. Pons, coming in 3 of 7 from downtown. All of his shots coming from there. 2 of 3 at the line. 1 rebound, had a beautiful alley-oop pass on a fast break to Kevin Patton, and had a huge smile after the game as he was getting interviewed by the media. So great game for the Lobos to get their chemistry on offense, really just be able to run whatever they want at any time in this game and put whoever they want on the court to try these different lineups, even having Pons out there. Want to mention to Javis Miller, who has not played much of late, scored 10 points, going 3 of 7 from downtown as well. So good to see Javis out there making some shots. Sure, he will be important at some point in conference play here. Clearly, the Lobos' best shooter from downtown has been Mr. J. Call, the freshman sensation, hitting about 3.3 threes per game thus far. And if he continues on this rate, he is on pace to tie Anthony Mathis' record of 106. I did some math and it came out to over 105 threes. So we'll round up to 106 to tie Mathis there. Kevin Henry, back in the day in 1998-99, had 102. J. Call is on pace to have over 100 threes this year as a freshman, and I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks it because it seems like he's getting more comfortable. He loves that corner shot now, and for someone like him that's an elite shooter, that when he's open in the corner, it feels almost like a layup. You see players now on the break, they know he's going to be there and they get the pass and it's immediately out of their hands to Hall. So as long as they get him the looks that he wants, I believe he'll keep hitting. It'll be fun to see how close he gets to Anthony Mathis' record for a single season total of three-pointers of 106. We will now get into the preview of Santa Clara at New Mexico coming in December 6th, Saturday at 7 p.m. Mountain. Albuquerque, New Mexico, the pit. Santa Clara coming in again with only one loss on the year, that being Robbie Avila a couple weeks ago in their mid-season tournament there. Last season, 24-25 season, they finished at 21-13, 12-6 in the West Coast Conference for fourth place under Herb Sendek. This will be his 10th season down here in Santa Clara, about 30 minutes south of where I live. They bring back 30% of their minutes played from last year's team and about 25% of the scoring they had. And they had some early season wins so far against Xavier, which was on national TV, where they blew out Richard Pitino's Xavier Musketeers by about 20 points. They also had that win over Nevada, which I mentioned earlier, and a win over Minnesota after they dropped that one to St. Louis. They came back and defeated Nico Medved's new Minnesota team there. And then they defeated Utah Tech last night by 10 points, led by Christian Hammond, who did not play in the two prior games, I believe. He's a 6'4" guard, their leading scorer, and they are going to miss him in some of these games here that matter more, especially in conference play if he's not back. I think he could be expected back anytime, so wouldn't be surprised if Christian Hammond plays against the Lobos. He's averaging over 16 points a game. He's a returner to this team, also averaging over about 4 rebounds, over 2 assists, over 1 steal a game, shooting over 40% from three-point range so far. So he would be obviously someone they'll miss against the Lobos if he's not available. He did not play in their last game. Down low, they have Elijah Mahi, 6'7" forward, but he's also capable of putting the ball on the deck. He plays over 30 minutes a game, scores over 13 points a game, good for over 4 rebounds a game. He's a returning player as well. Will shoot the three ball over 35% so far this season, but over 2 turnovers per game so far for Elijah Mahi, the forward. Down low, Buki Aboye, may or may not be saying that correctly. He's a 7'1" center. He is long, tall. He is a fantastic shot blocker, coming in around 2 blocks a game in only 17 minutes played, averaging almost 10 points as well. And he'll be a problem down low with his size, especially for Bullion. Against this great shot blocker, look for Bullion to go into the body of Aboye here, probably try to draw some fouls, look for other ways to score by drawing that contact with the bump before the shot goes up, which Bullion is fantastic at. So it'll be an interesting matchup down low. Joining him down low at times, Alan Graves, a freshman who played a bunch of minutes in their previous game. He's averaging about 9 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, and he is a guy that can do it from a lot of different spots on the floor and looks very experienced for only being a freshman. Brenton Napper, a guard, playing 25 minutes a game. I think he is only about 6 foot tall, but he is averaging over 8 points a game, only shooting 22% from 3, though. So we want Napper to launch him if you're a Lobo fan. Transfer from Villanova coming over this year, Sash Guviagov, and he is a 3-point shooter. He will let it go. He is on the shorter side as well. I think only about 6 foot tall for this guard. He is averaging around 8 points a game, but he has come off the bench and provided a scoring spark, shooting about 35% from deep. Player that they probably will be missing their last 2 against Minnesota and Utah Tech, that Jake Ensminger, and he has really been a leader for them thus far this year, being their leading rebounder at 6'9". He has been there a couple of years now, and he leads the team in assists as well as being one of their top defenders, scoring 8 points a game. His loss is really tough for the Broncos. I believe he went down while slipping on a wet spot actually on the court in that St. Louis game, if I'm understanding correctly. We'll say he allegedly slipped on a wet spot that was seen earlier in the game and wiped up, and maybe not wiped up correctly, reportedly. And it's a huge loss for them because he's really the guy that leads their huddle out there, communicator, directs people on defense, and hits the boards hard. So a big man, but multifaceted at 6'9". They will really miss him out there. And if he's out, it really changes how they're going to play. They've been able to win their next two games without him, but without his impactful rebounding and leadership, it's going to be tough to replace one of their most important players. But stepping up in Jake Ensminger's recent injury is Terry Darlin. He being the first player to come over from the NBA G League, playing there the previous season, now coming back to college, the first player to do so. And he originated out of the country of Senegal and played in the Basketball Africa League, then went to the G League Ignite and Delaware Bluecoats of the G League, and now will be playing in the West Coast Conference and visiting the pit as well. So incredible story for this young man to now be getting his college education after being a professional basketball player for a couple of years. But he's a long, athletic guard, has a lot of game, played nicely in this previous game where they won by 10 points against Utah Tech. He finishing with only 6 points, but 3 rebounds, 2 assists on the season. Terry Darland averaging around the same, 6 points and 5 assists, but he's a 6'8", good defender. Expecting his role to grow with these injuries and points needing to come from somewhere at some point. So the current injury report does show both Hammond and Ensminger as questionable, undisclosed injury. So we will see if they suit up in Albuquerque tomorrow. But as we dive into this matchup of the Santa Clara offense, an offense that is patient, that is comfortable with the pieces out there, being a team with players that returned from last year, a couple of freshman pieces coming in, of course, this G League player in Darlin, but their efficiency is the 52nd ranked best in the country. And they're a team that also rebounds the ball well on the offensive side. So it'll be very important for the Lobos to gang rebound other than Bullion. Chol has to be able to rebound with Howe, Patton when he's in there. Tanet has been doing a great job on the boards as well this season, and that would be important against the Santa Clara team as they come in with a great offensive rebounding rate. They're a team that does not turn the ball over, and of course the Lobos want to turn teams up, so we'll see if they can get the Broncos sped up or out of whack a little bit if they're missing a couple of their key pieces. One surprising thing, they come in ranked 329th in the country in free throw attempts a game, only averaging a little over 27 attempts per game thus far. And that could be something in the Lobos' advantage if it comes down to free throw shooting. Of course, we know Albury draws a lot of those fouls. Tanet goes to the rim a bit, and Bullion draws fouls as well. So if the Lobos can get to the hoop a lot, draw those fouls, they will have the advantage there, it seems. And as I mentioned a few seconds ago, this offense is like a well-oiled machine when it's working best. Everyone is comfortable in their role on this Bronco team, and they average one of the better assists per field goal in the country, coming in at the 28th best assists per field goal made, meaning most of their shots are assisted and the ball is moving to the right places at the right time. Very fun to watch. So the Lobos have to look for ways to disrupt that, cut off passing lanes, double guys at times, and make things uncomfortable for the Broncos. When the Lobos have the ball, as we know, they're going to put up a lot of three-pointers and make 33% of them so far this year, which is not a very good percentage, 217th in the country in that department. Santa Clara comes in with one of the best block rates in the country, and that's really led by that 7'1" player I mentioned, Buki Aboye. So the Lobos have to be taking good shots. A lot of them are going to be contested, if not blocked. So look for the Lobos to hopefully move the ball a lot better after that practice run they basically got versus New Mexico Highlands to kind of fine tune their offense. Hopefully that carries over. Obviously, this game will be at a whole nother level than a game versus New Mexico Highlands, but at least the Lobos went through the motions in the last one. Hopefully it carries over to some better passing, more assists in this game versus Santa Clara. The Ken Palm website had this game predicted as a 2-point win for Santa Clara. It'll be interesting to see when the Las Vegas odds come out what it is, and if it's dependent on what players are available for the Broncos, that'll probably go into it. I wouldn't be surprised to see Santa Clara favored by a point or two, but we will see. I was off by a couple points on my last prediction as well. So I'll say Santa Clara by 1.5 will be the line. But I think the Lobos can win this game and should win this game. It's their biggest opportunity that they'll have in non-conference other than the game they'll have against VCU, which follows this one. So excited for this opportunity. The players should be excited. Hopefully Bullion is at full strength. Everyone is really feeling their roles a little bit better. And I'm going to be doing my best to actually bring this game over the YouTube airwaves legally. Been working with a company or a brand, whatever you want to call it, a startup called the Creator Sports Network, which obtain rights to a lot of Mountain West games. You might have seen it on others. YouTube channels like the Big Mountain, Bronco Nation News, others have live stream Mountain West games. I'm going to do my best to try to put this Lobo game out on my YouTube channel, possibly on my Twitter if I can figure it out. I'm getting old and the new technology is a little bit of a curve for someone that is now so gray. He is looking like a Lobo. Want to thank everyone for turning in here. If you do stay home for the game, flip on YouTube and check in and see if I'm putting the game out here. I will do my best to bring the game live with a preview prior to the game, possibly some commentary after if everyone's not asleep in my home. And this has been another episode of the Cherry Heat Check. Thanks for checking in.